Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, videos back on the Carfate Vanguard deck profile. So we got Jordan to like, comment, subscribe, and let's watch out, shall we? This time we're covering set 9 for Bavsargra Dragon Empire. All around, Bavsargra is kind of interesting because I think a lot of us expected her to get, or at least a few of us that still have hope for it, me and a few others, kind of hoping for a third arm, but sadly we did not get one. But instead what we got was an interesting 2 cards that lead to, well, one fixes a counterblast problem that Bav had, more or less, and the other one increases that counterblast problem, but instead kind of gives us a lot of ways to draw a bunch of cards, which for a lot of people sounds like an interesting thing, and for me sounds like an over-convoluted combo that isn't really worth doing, to the point where I only ever did it once just for the sake of showing it off on camera, and then I never did it again. Not because it's because it's hard to do, it just feels like so convoluted to do one simple thing, so I'd rather not do that. But let's go and get this started, shall we, and see what we get from it. First of today, we have our starter in Sealed Blaze Dragon Arisha, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Sorry if I stop talking randomly, like my mouth is extremely cold right now. Like I just drank soda and like ate ice cream at the same time. Like my mouth is actually fucking cold. So if I just stop talking for a random second or I just start jittering, that's what's happening. Anyways, auto and Rotopine for 1 second draw a card. Standard starter, not supposed to, but it means if you just 1 second, you get a free draw, which is nice because that means you can essentially refund your ride deck discard, which is all around pretty nice to have, especially when you're getting a free deck search anyways from riding to the grade 1. So solid card. I would say you don't need this as your starter, but considering the grade 1 does actually require this as your starter, it makes it the most important card in the deck. I'd say you gotta run a research for this deck, so one of in the ride deck. Then we have our Overtrigger in Dragon Deity King of Resurgence Drag Veda. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger, you mail in 1 Overtrigger in your deck. Run a visitor trigger, the card, draw a card, choose one means, get something for the turn. In a visitor during draw check, activate its effect, which is you get to choose one of your vanguards and stand it. So in this deck, that is essentially death for your opponent because your vanguard can get double crit very quickly, and being able to restand with double crit and at least 23k power is amazing, meaning you're pressuring your opponent for just your game, essentially. And then if you have the sword equipped, then that's a technical 3 damage coming their way, maybe. It's just a whole lot of things this Overtrigger can do, and it's deadly to watch happen. And with the 1 million in draw card on top of it too, I feel bad for anyone who has to deal with that. Like, all around, the over's fun in this deck because if you see it, your opponent's going to hate you for it because they are not walking away from this turn easy. So, one of Drake Veda in the deck. Obari's nice and all having the 1 millions, but this deck hits fucking numbers like insanely. So, Drake Veda for the restand. Then we have our normal triggers. First up, we have 3 copies of Battle Maiden Zone, grade 0, or Blaze Maiden Zone, not Battle Maiden. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. Just a single normal crit. You know, you can really make this any crit you want. It's nice to have the extra crits. We run a total of 7 crits, actually, with the other 4 being Burning Flail, of course. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical short auto rare at the end about a boost to put it to soul. Choose means gets plus k for the turn. You know, it's nice to have that, you know, increase your soul count by a little bit, especially because Bav wanting the extra crit is a constant thing. So making sure you're consistently being able to soul blast 2 is pretty nice. And you also want to run on the 7 crits because, again, even though the Vanguard has a crit pressure on it, you have Prevente, which actually got a buff in this set, technically speaking. So, you know, we can use it to do burn damage and then put crits on the rear guard and make their life a lot harder. All around, 7 crits is a nice pressuring number for this deck, and I love abusing the fuck out of my opponent with it, so why not run 7? And then we run 4 fronts and Blaze Maiden and Parama because fuck draw triggers. We can make a board out of nowhere. Let's just run front triggers and bully my opponent more with Grid 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Front triggers, guard circle, guards, grade 3, guards plus 5k shield. So, you know, it increases shield value, which is nice, and it just adds power to front row, which makes it a lot harder for your opponent to defend it. So why not run the 4 fronts along with the 7 crits just to put enough pressure on your opponent to make sure you get that point across. Hey, you're dead this turn, motherfucker. So that's our trigger lineup, and then we run 4 regular heals and Blaze Maiden and Rona. So grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power, standard heal, nothing special about it. I do like this heal. It's one of my favorite Dragon Empire heals, that and the other Blaze Maiden one whose name eludes me at this moment, but she has saved me on so many occasions, and this one has saved me on so many occasions too, so I do like both these Blaze Maiden heals. I don't like the counter heals that much, not because of their arts, well, one of them I don't like their art at all, but like, it's more because, you know, their skills are very situational, and if you don't end up running into the situation where their skill goes off, they're essentially just 10k shields, and that can backfire on you greatly. So I'd rather have the consistent 15k shield rather than, yes, overall more shield, but when it comes to requiring specific situations for it, possibly less shield. So 4 of the regular heals, if you want to run the counter heals, go ahead, but I do prefer the regular heals, and I prefer Rona the most because she was one of the first heals, or she was the first heal for Dragon Empire, and she has saved me on so many occasions to the point where I feel like I owe her my life. Then move on to our normal units. First, we have 4 copies of the Grade 0 Trick Moon. Grade 0 boost 5k power, 5k base. Auto when it's placed on back row rear guard center from your drop, counter charge 1. That is the most specific wording for a skill I have ever seen. Well, that's a lie, but one of the most specific wordings I've ever seen for a skill. When placed on the back row center rear guard from the drop zone. So it has to be by effects. The only way they could have made that more specific is they said from drop by effects, but that already implies that it's by effects. So you got to go to a specific rear guard circle, but you get a counter charge out of it, which is fine. I hate the fact that it's so restrictive, but I guess it makes sense for Bav because she does end up having a decent amount of counterblast issues, and granted a counter charge is great, but you don't want to make it too great, especially when it's somehow splashable in Nirvana, who also has a CB problem. But Bushy just said fuck that deck, we just don't have to deal with that CB problem apparently. And then Dress Boost, which I think a lot of us were expecting that Trick Moon was going to get like an Overdress or something, or like they were going to make something with Trick Moon and Trickstar. Still waiting for that to happen because they have yet to do it. Especially the second they do it, Bushy's going to regret it because that means they've given us access to a countercharger in Nirvana, and that means they've unleashed the floodgates for chaos to occur. But well, I'll wait for that day to come. Maybe that's why they're not giving us to it, because they know they're going to unleash the floodgates if they do that. Anyways, Dress Boost, Auto Rear Guard. When this unit boosts, the boosted unit gets plus 10k ton of battle for each card your Sealed Blaze Maiden Bavsargra is armed with. So at the moment, currently that is 2, but again, Bav's wording says 2 or more, which implies that there is going to be a third one at some point in time, meaning there's a possible plus 30 going on to it. Either way, Trick Moon's an amazing booster because that makes it a 25k booster. And you have a full back row of Trick Moons and a possible Persona Ride going on. That essentially plus 35 to any unit, which guarantees that all of them are going to swing for at least 40. The worst case, or technically 39 if you for some reason called fronts to the front row, but most likely they're hitting for like 45 at the very least. So solid 4 of Trick Moon, gets free counter charge, and gets fuck ton of numbers, and a back row of these is just a death wish to anyone who stares it down. So 4 of Trick Moon, solid grade 0, and I like it. Then we have 3 copies of our first grade 1, and that is Break Steel Dragon. One of our newest grade 1s, actually, or cards in general. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, act rear guard. If your Vanguard has an arms card, whether it's left or right or center arms, which I'm still implying that they're going to make one, put this unit into your soul. Choose a Sealed Blaze or Prevete or Sealed Blaze Gun Chandra from your Vanguard. Not both, so if you are armed with both, you can't pick both. Until end of turn, the cost of the original auto ability of that card is reduced by counterblast 1. So it's great because not only does it get you soul for Bav, so you can soul blast out 2 to get an extra crit, but also the fact because both of the gun and the sword cost a counterblast 2 for the abilities to go off. Even if you have both equipment and it only picks 1, it still drops the cost by 1, meaning it becomes, like say for example, the sword now becomes a CB1. And it's not a once per turn, and it can reduce more than once, meaning if you have 2 of them, you can send it to soul and then proceed to drop the cost down to 0. Or like say for example, like you already have the sword equipped, but you have a left DD arms accessed or like open, and then what you could do is you could move this thing to soul, drop the sword cost by 1, maybe equip Chandra, soul blast out this grade 1, then use Bath skill, soul charge, and then call this grade 1 right back, and then send them right back to soul, and then drop the sword skill again, or maybe drop Chandra skill. I mean, at that point, it's just the same cost either way. So boom, now you can use both abilities for only the cost of a CB2 instead of a CB4, which is great, and it just leads to some dangerous shenanigans. I love this grade 1 a lot, and it did end up tempting me to put Chandra up past 1, which it didn't, but it at least made me more comfortable in having to rely on Chandra if I need to. So 3 of Break Steel Dragon. Solid grade 1, helps out with the counterblast problem, helps out with the soul blast problem. It's just an amazing card, and it's a solid 3 of. And then we have 4 copies of Sealed Blaze Dragon Sahamadi, aka literally only in this deck just because the combo requires it. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear guard during your turn. If your Vanguard has 2 or more arms, this unit gets plus 5k. So great, you know, free 5 if you have 2 or more arms. And again, 2 or more. They're implying there is a third one. When there will be a third one, I have no idea, but I hope they get a third one soon. And then act rear guard. If your Vanguard has arms on it, retire this unit. Choose a arms from your hand or drop zone and arm it to one of your Vanguards. If you armed a card, you cannot arm for the rest of the turn. So it basically locks you out of arming, which is fair. But in exchange, you get to get a free arms, possibly trigger Bav and just get this thing back, and then you have it on an extra 5k too. All around, solid grade 1. I like it a lot. The only way it could be better is if it sent itself to soul, but again, yeah, that would be a little too broken. So fair enough. Good grade 1 because it arms it for free too. So solid 4 up. It's just a good card. Like Bav honestly has like the best way to get its armed because it has multiple cards that allow you to arm for free more or less, or just like reduce the cost of their skills. So solid 4 of some Hamadi, even though it is used for the calm mode, it is like genuinely just a good card to have in the deck. Then we have 4 copies of our PG and Twin Buckler Dragon. Grade 1 boost with 0 show, 6k base, continuing Sentinel. You may have up to 4 suns in deck. On a guard circle, choose one of your units. It cannot be hit on the battle. If your hand is true, mark cards to card from a card. Standard PG. Not special bad boost means if this is only one card you can place it on guard circle, you don't have discard one, which is great because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. And when your opponent eventually comes and counterattacks you because they realize you dropped all your defenses on the aggressive, that means you can just quickly go nope and throw down a giant wall that they cannot break through no matter what. And then because they went all in this turn, you can go all in again on your next turn and then basically blow up their shit and then kill them to death with double crit. All around, Twin Buckler is a nice PG to have. He's very solid. He was one of my favorite PGs for a long time. He's still one of my favorite PGs now because he just always shows up on an EMDB. And there was a game where I happened to draw 4 of them in my opening hand. I called 2 of them as support because I felt like it, and it ended up winning me the game because of divine intervention, and I drew the other 2 the following few turns. All around, Twin Buckler is an amazing grade 1. I love it a lot. It's just a solid card, and you can really run this or the new PG. I want to say it's, yeah, Sparkle or Jet Dragon, but I prefer Twin Buckler for this one because, you know, it was released back when Bav was released or around those times, and I'd rather have them both stay together instead of like go with the Sparkle or Jet Dragon who was released after Bav. So 4 of Twin Buckler, solid PG. Then we have our last grade 1, it's the grade 1 of the ride deck, and that is Sealed Blaze Dragon Namor card. None in the main deck because once it gets into drop zone, it is physically callable via Bavsargra skill. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto is placed on Vanguard by riding from specifically Sealed Blaze Dragon Arena Shot. Soul Blast 1, search deck for 1 Sealed Blaze Sword Privete or Sealed Blaze Shield Sobanya. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. So great, either you get the shield or the sword, which is amazing, and then auto rear guard. When this attacks, it gets plus 2k for the battle. Okay, so not that bad. It's a generic 2k skill, but you know what? It makes it better than the other ones from the other trial decks is because this one's freaking superior callable, so fair enough. All around, it's a decent card. Sadly, it only gets you 2 of the arms, but we did just recently get a new searcher for any of the arms, so fair enough that he only searches for the sword and the shield, and most likely you're going to pick the shield unless you already have the shield in hand. And being able to be a 10k swinger is nice, so solid 1 of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, because again, you don't really want to call him to rear guard, but if you have to, you can call him from drop zone, which you soul blast him out with Bav. Then move on to grade 2s. 4 copies of the thing that initiates the combo of drawing cards, and that is Sealed Blaze Dragon Kankashita. So grade 2 NSF 5k shield 10k base, who's also the new card that searches orders, and that is his skill is auto when he's placed on rear guard from your hand specifically. If your Vanguard has Bavsargra on its card name, interesting, it says has Bavsargra, not is Bavsargra. Soul Blast 1 and discard 1. Search your deck for or drop for up to 1 arms card, reveal it, put it to your hand, and if you search your deck, you shuffle it. Okay, I want this to be clear. Most of the time, you're going to choose to search your deck just to deck then. But if you don't choose, what you can do is just Soul Blast out a grade 1 or lower for Bav's Superior Call later, ditch a order or an arms, and then just bounce Z arms back to your hand. Just saying that is an applicable option. Most of the time, you're going to search your deck. And then the ability that kicks off the stupidity combo is act rear guard once per turn by counterblasting 1 and putting an arms card from your Vanguard into your soul. Draw a card, and this uses up 5k for the turn. So it's not specific arms. It does increase your soul count. Granted, it costs a CB, but fair enough. And you get to draw and replace the card, and it gets plus 5, so it's a 15k. All around, solid grade 2. I like it a lot. Get you soul cards, get you draws, gets you power, and sets up a stupid combo that no one else knows really how to apply. And frankly, I'm literally looking up right now so I can make sure I get the combo right. But all around, it's a solid grade 2, and I like it a lot, so we're going to run it as a 4 of, and I will explain the combo at the end of this video as I quickly scroll through Discord to find it. And then our last grade 2, or only other grade 2, is the grade 2 of the ride deck, and that is 1 copy of, none in the main deck, only 1 in the ride deck, of Sealed Blaze Dragon Halibardra. So grade 2 is a 5k shield, 10k base. Auto was placed by riding from, when it's placed on Vanguard by riding from side Sealed Blaze Dragon Namor card. Choose an arms from your drop zone, put it to hand, which is solid because that means you can just discard an arms that you search for your ride deck from Namor cards. So say, for example, you search Sobanya last turn, you discard Sobanya, and then you ride Halibardra, and then you use Halibardra's skill to get Sobanya back. It's just like a free ride deck card, so that's pretty great. And then auto rear guard, when this unit attacks, if your Vanguard is armed, it gets plus 5k power for battle. Okay, this one cannot be called back, and frankly, it's not really worth it, because granted, 15 is only for the battle, though. This one keeps it for the turn, so if they found a way to restand it, which is what the third arm should do, restand your rear guards, but it's not going to. If they're just saying that's what they should do with it, this one is still better. So, all around, it's a solid card for Vanguard skills, just no rear guard skills. So, 1 of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, but it does make your grade 2 turn essentially free for ride, so 1 of. Then move on to our grade 3s. First up, we talk about the last unit in the deck, but not the last card. 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the red deck of our main grade 3. Sealed Blaze Maiden, Bavsargra. So grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base. This deity fuck, what was I gonna call her? Female war deity of pure destruction, has 2 skills. Auto vanguard once per turn when this unit is armed by any means. So whether it's superior armor, as I've just been calling it whenever I use abilities such as this one, you get to soul charge 1 and then choose a grade 1 card from a drop zone and call it to rear guard. So it is a mandatory, you have to do that skill, meaning you mandatorily have to soul charge and call a rear guard. But so if you could deck yourself out from this, but still, that's great. Sadly, it's a once per turn, though, but that means you just can't abuse Trick Moon because Trick Moon's a thing. But then again, they should have just made it called to an open rearguard circle, but fair enough. And then Act Vanguard once per turn. If this unit is armed with 2 or more cards, by Soul Blasting 2, retire all your opponent's rearguards in the front row, and this unit gets a crit for the turn. So essentially, nuke their front row, get a crit. Back in set 3, when this trial deck was first released around, you didn't really have a way to get double arms. Now, nowadays, we have 3 different ways to get double arms. We have the spear, we have, what's his name? Adhita, I think his name is, the grade 3. I forgot what his name is, but we all know what I'm talking about, right? The counterblast 1 on place, get the arms. I swear it starts with an A, I just don't remember the rest of its name. Oh, Ardala, that's what it is. And then the other one now being, double arms. What's the other one? This one. So we have 3 different ways to get double arms. And then just being able to do that while your opponent's at grade 2, by the way, because that's how all of them work. All of them can work while your opponent's at grade 2, meaning while they have their board out on grade 2 turn for whatever reason, you can just quickly nuke the front row of it and get an extra crit. So all around, whenever you're playing Bav, don't call shit to the front row when you're going second, because they will nuke your shit. But it's a solid grade 3 though. Gets a soul charge, get you rear guards, get you an extra crit so early on, and get rid of your opponent's front row rear guards all at once. Solid grade 3, I like it a lot. The only thing I wish could be better is that they revealed the fucking Thermard already, because it says 2 or more on this one. It said 2 or more on this one. I'm pretty sure it says 2 or more on any of the other ones that gain 5k. Give us the 3rd goddamn arm already. 4 of Bavsargra, 3 in the main deck, 1 in the right deck. And then we go over our arms. So first up, we have 1 copy of Sealed Blaze Gun Chandra. I know some people like to run set of 2 of, but I really like playing defensively with this deck, and I like being on my boy, what's it called? I like being on my boy Sobanya, so I'd rather only have 1 Chandra, but if you want to run more than 1, go ahead. But I only suggest running 2 at max. So grade 3, all of them are normal orders, and all of them are grade 3s. This one's left DD arms, so Sealed Blaze Bane and Bavsargra. After being played, the specified arms, if it is a new left DD arms is armed, put it to the drop zone. Here's my thing. I hate the fact that it's called left, because here's the thing. It is on her left. And this is an argument I got to someone in comments, and I'm like, guys, does no one pay attention to this? So it is canonically on Bav's left, but it is on your right. Because as you're playing it, if you put it on the left, the arts don't match up. But if you put it on the right side of your board, it does match up. Like, no joke, if we play this, like, it figures out, like, watch. So, I'm just going to do this real quickly just to prove the argument to point. So, as we can see, this is the, give me a second. This is the right of Bavsargra from our perspective. This is the left of Bavsargra from our perspective. This is a left DD arms, but it lines up on the right. I don't know why I feel like I have to constantly win this argument. It just feels like I have to. But anyways, yeah, that's the thing. Anyways, its cost to play is Soul Blast 1, so essentially it evens out with Bavsargra's Soul Charge ability. And then Auto Vanguard, when this unit is armed, when the unit armed with this card attacks by counterblasting 2, and the unit armed with it gets 1 drive for the battle. At the end of the battle, you put this card to drop zone. So all around, you get triple drive for the cost of CB2. It's kind of meh, because there's times where this comes in useful, and there are times where it doesn't. It really just does depend, but it's an interesting arm nonetheless, which is why I don't really like running it as a 2-of, because at the end of the day, it does go to drop zone. I like having my defensive capability, so it's a really final turn card, but hey, it's decent, so I might as well run as a 1-of. Then we run our, literally the most important armor in the deck, and that is Sealed Blaze Shield Swabanya, aka the card I think I had reasons to call, like, everyone that played Bav back in set 3 stupid for. Or not stupid, but, like, none of them could kind of get the true reasoning why I ran it at 4, even no matter how many times I said it. Because if you don't remember, back when it was first released, a lot of people just kept saying, you only need to run of it, you only need to run of it. Yes, because you get the Surge. But what I don't think people understood, and it was the argument I kept making, and I kept ran into that problem, which is why I kept making that argument, which is there are times where you just want to equip the arm to soul charge 1 and call. And I don't think people understood what I meant by that, even though I literally said, I need times where I just remove the current shield, place a new one, get a soul charge, and call. Because there were games where that happened where I didn't have a sword in hand, and I just needed to call a rear guard from drop zone. And you know what? That won me a few games. The games I ran into that situation, those games were won because I had ran more shields. If I didn't run more shields, I would have actively lost, because I wouldn't have had enough rear guard pressure. So I'm just saying that, but whatever. Anyways, left DD arms on Bavsargra, so you can only have one of these armed to Bavsargra at a time, unless they make a new one that allows for you to do both at the same time. Play it by counterblasting 1, and then auto vanguard once per turn when this armed unit is attacked by any means, so by attacked by the rear guard or the vanguard, that armed unit gets plus 10k for the battle. So it's a free 10k, which is all around pretty nice. So essentially, if your opponent ever swings with you, that's anything that's like a between the ranges of a 10k, actually a 5k or 10k guard, just use Sobanya, because it essentially guarantees them fuck you, and it just saves you shield value. All around Sobanya is great. It basically nullifies the idea of poking the vanguard, because then they just know they won't work, and it's just a solid card, and it's searchable, so one of in the main deck, because you get to search it the second you ride, thankfully, so there's no way in hell it's ending up out of deck. Then we go on to 3 copies of Sealed Blade Sword Pavete, grade 3, normal order, right DD arms. This time it's on the right, or again, for our perspective, it is the left. After it's played, specify arms it to the specified vanguard. If it's a new right DD arms is armed, put it to drop zone. So if you play another right DD arms with another Pavete or Hita on top of it, or another right DD arms in general, it goes to drop zone. And then by paying, you can play it by you can play it by paying a Soul Blast of 1, so again, it evens out with Bav's skill. And then auto vanguard on this unit. When the armed unit attacks, the armed unit gets plus 10k for the battle. And at the end of the battle, if your opponent's damage has 4 less cards, counterblast 2, put it to drop, and choose an opponent's vanguard, deal them damage. Great. I love this one more than I like Chandra, because like I said, I like to keep the shield on, so I like to always recycle my Privetes or recycle my Adhitas, and being able to do a quick bop damage is great as well, and being able to give Bav a guaranteed 23 with a possible double crit on it is very great as well. So all around, solid card, I like it a lot, and it's even better now with Break Seal being here, being able to go into Soul, so again, nullifying the cost of equipping the order, but then also making sure that the cost of using the order's skill is cheaper. So all around, solid card a lot. I love it, so it's all 3 of. And then we have the last card in the deck, and then after this I will go over the extremely convoluted combo, and that is 3 copies of Sealed Blaze Spear, Adhita. So this card is interesting because, again, it's a right DD arm, so you can't arm both of these at once, but you could technically put them in the same turn, and it's one of the cards that allow us to have multiple arms in the same turn. So first we play it by playing Counterblast of 1, Auto Vanguard when this... Auto Vanguard Circle. When this card is armed, draw a card, and you may play 1 additional arms this turn. That is not a once per turn. Meaning if you arm this, you can then arm it again with another copy of Adhita, and then just keep doing it till you run out of Adhitas. And it's just stupid. So technically speaking, you can get in this deck 4 arms in one go. So that's great, and 3 free draws. And then continues Vanguard during your turn. The unit armed with this gets plus 10k power. So all around, it's solid, you know. It gets numbers. It essentially does the same thing as Privete over here with the numbers and getting us free draws and stuff like that. But then it also just has, you know, the ability to get us a fuck ton of draws and lead to a combo that I'm trying to look up, but I'm pretty sure I know what it is more or less. And so I'm just going to go over it. If I butcher it, I'm sorry, because it's been a hot while since I've seen it. So essentially what you do is, I believe you start off with this one to search out your deck for a copy of Adhita, unless you already have one in hand, then don't search it out yet. Use Adhita, draw a card, use Bav skill, Soul Charge 1, call Trick Moon. You don't really need to call Trick Moon, I think you can call anything, but just make sure you have access to this. But anyways, call whatever, and this obviously, but then you call whatever you want, you use the skill to draw a card and arm another card, and then if you don't have another copy, what you do is you call Kanisha, get another copy of that arm it onto Adhita, or sorry, get it into your hand, then use the grade 1, then use the grade 2 skill, send Adhita Soul to get your draw, get your power, play Adhita to draw another card, use Bav skill, Soul Blast out 2, get a critical, then use this fucker skill, commit Seppuku, get the arms back. Wait, no, before you do that, call a second copy of the grade 2, send the current spear on Vanguard into your soul, draw another card, and then draw another card from, draw another card from this thing skill, then use Samadhi skill to get the spear right back from the drop zone that you soul blasted earlier, counter blast 1, get another draw, and then just arm again because you fucking can. It's a stupid thing that you can do, and it's just to get you a lot of fucking hand cards. That's all I really need to say. I don't remember if that's actually how the combo goes or not, but it's something along those lines. You're welcome for making me relive that horrible combo. And without done, that's further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed. The video is over. That was the most butchered way I could end that video ever. But all around, the deck's interesting. It has that draw combo that I feel like a lot of people play the deck for now, and for me personally, I just don't care because it feels like it's way too much for just one simple thing. Like, you don't need to do all that drawing. I don't, and the deck still works perfectly fine. But if you want to go flex on your opponent with the most convoluted way to draw cards ever, then go ahead. But yeah, it's a solid deck. You know, it gets draws. It is super consistent with, well, not super consistent, but it's more consistent with Soul now. I like how they're building up Bav, though. I like how they're building up Bav. Like, they're giving it 1 to 3 cards every set, or technically they're giving like 2 to 3 cards every set, and it feels like, you know, the cards aren't fixing all the deck's problems, but they're fixing it slowly over time. They're like small fixes, like we fixed the soul problem, like we're slowly fixing the soul problem, we're getting them more hand cards in case that becomes a problem, and we're making their counterblast cheaper. Like, they're slowly giving them support over time to fix each of their problems, and I just like it a lot. So without further ado, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. What do you think is coming in the next one? Do you think we're finally going to get the third arm next time, or are we going to get some new Bavsargra that makes all these fucking useless because they are name restricted to Bavsargra, or unless she makes herself count as the original Bavsargra? Either way, I'm going to end it here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us, follow Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.